Today's digital tip is how to turn a color photo into black and white and then paint back in a little bit of color. In this photo, for example, it would be nice to have everything black and white except for this bouquet. In order to do that, we'll use a hue saturation adjustment layer. I'll click on the black and white circle at the top of the layers palette and choose hue saturation from the drop-down menu. Now we get a dialog box with some sliders. Click on the saturation slider and move it all the way to the left to remove all the color, and then click OK. When I click OK, notice that I have a new layer in the layers palette, an adjustment layer, and there's a white rectangle on it. That's called a mask. If I hide this layer by clicking on the eye, you can see that I didn't actually change my photo at all. It's still a color photo. I'll go ahead and click and put the eye back there, so now you can see that this adjustment layer is actually like looking through rose-colored lenses, where you make an adjustment, and as long as you have this mask there, you can see it. Now, when the mask is all white, the adjustment shows through, but watch what happens when I paint on the mask with black. You'll want to get your brush tool, and then you'll want to come up to the brush picker menu and choose a nice soft brush from the menu up here. Then you'll want to make sure that you have 100% opacity and just begin to paint on these roses. However, the one thing you do have to check is to make sure that your foreground color is black. So we're going to paint with black, but actually we're painting the color back in. Now if you look over at your layers palette, you can actually see what's happening. Everywhere that there is white, the black and white adjustment layer shows through. But here where it's black, you can see the color. That's because white reveals the adjustment layer and black conceals it. Now what happens if I'm going along here, I'm painting my roses back in, and I go too far? Well, that's not a problem at all. You can just switch your color chips by clicking on this double-headed arrow, and now you can paint with white. Remember, white will reveal the adjustment layer, so now my black and white is being painted back in. Now there are a couple of things that are fun to do with this. One is to change the opacity of your brush, so you can move this down to about 50%. And now when you paint, you'll get a more faded look. I've already painted this in, so I won't do it here. But that's a way that you can just start from the very beginning to do just a very faded look, just a tiny bit of color in. Another thing you can do is on the fly you can change your brush size by pressing the right or left bracket key. So if I press my right bracket key, it makes it bigger. If I press the left bracket key, it makes it smaller. This photo looks wonderful on a beautiful wedding page. So the next time you have a photo that you want to turn into black and white, why don't you try painting back in just a touch of color?